In this episode of Highlight Sundays, mobile phones, the NSA, and more mobile phones. Hello and welcome back to Highlight Sundays. It is the 37th week of 2013 and here are your highlights. We start off with a PSA from Lifehacker. Now, today's PSA is slightly different in the sense that it isn't a security issue. Anyway, the article in question is entitled, Return a Lost Phone with the IMEI Number. Now, if you are just walking along the street and you see a mobile phone on the floor, of course, you are a good Samaritan, you pick it up, and you're looking for a way to actually return this to its owner. If the phone doesn't have a PIN number or a lock of some kind, you can of course delve into the address book, look for someone who looks reasonably important and call them. But what if the phone was locked? What if you had no means of actually accessing the contents of the phone? Well, there is still a solution. You can actually look for the IMEI number, and this stands for International Mobile Station Equipment Identity. As you can probably infer from the name, every phone has its own unique IMEI number. As the article mentions, if you've laid your hands on an iPhone, look somewhere on a back cover or in the SIM tray, and if you've found a Samsung Android phone, chances are the IMEI number is on a sticker under the battery. Then try to see which carrier that device is actually associated with, ring them up and tell them you found a phone and give them the IMEI number. Because they are very likely to have transaction information on record, and that will include, the contact information of the owner of the phone as well as the IMEI number. They can of course very easily look up this information and locate the rightful owner of the lost phone. Definitely not the most elegant solution to this problem, but I guess, if that is the only way, if you've exhausted all other means, you still have this option. So now we move on to the gaping security issues that we normally put in the PSA section, except this is a follow-up to our PSA last week. This article comes from Ars Technica and is entitled, Of course NSA can crack crypto, anyone can. The question is, how much? Now, remember what I said last week about sensationalist headlines? Well, don't worry too much about the whole NSA cracking crypto thing. The article we're looking at today from Ars Technica is actually a pretty long article that tries to look at both sides of the story, and really it just boils down to the fact that we don't have enough information to really know how much the NSA can do. But the article brings up a really good point. Basically, pretty much any form of encryption can actually be broken using a brute force technique. The thing is, most ordinary hackers don't normally try this approach because it's very time consuming, it requires a lot of computing power, but we're talking about the NSA here. I'm sure they have all the computing power they want, and so even if they want to attempt brute force cracking, it will be comparatively easier for them. Unfortunately, there just really isn't enough information to know how much the NSA can do, and like the article concludes, it still is perfectly possible that the NSA has found a way to actually completely break the whole concept of encryption algorithms. It's not a possibility that can't just be ruled out, but at the same time, things could be the other extreme as well. So once again, don't get alarmed by sensationalist headlines. If you're interested to read more about this issue, do head down to the video description. The Ars Technica link will actually really break down the entire event. What do we have on the agenda? Mobile phones, done. NSA, done. Right, more mobile phones. This article comes from Gizmodo and is entitled, This Incredible Tablet Keyboard Transforms to Fit Your Sloppy Fingers. Finally, we have an Android keyboard that is trying to break the mold and start from scratch. If you own a smartphone, especially an Android one, you realize that pretty much every keyboard on Google Play uses the same formula, which is why of course, this is a refreshing change. Now, interestingly, this particular keyboard concept isn't aimed at, trying to make touchscreen typing not be a weird and janky thing. Instead, this is meant for tablet users who are good touch typists. What this means of course is you do need to actually properly know the whole touch typing thing, and the idea is the app will render a keyboard on screen that kind of fits your hand movements. So as your hand drifts away, the keyboard will drift along to make sure that, you are still within the vicinity of it. But of course, to even make this possible to do, it does have to work on the premise that you are a touch typist. This particular app is actually created by the guys who created Swipe. For those of you who don't know, Swipe is a popular keyboard that apparently makes typing easy for a lot of people, because of course you don't have to lift your fingers off each individual key and touch the new key. You can just make a gesture between all the keys you want to type. Not really my cup of tea. I certainly prefer to actually press individual buttons. Having said that, I am also not a touch typist, which means that this new keyboard might not be the thing for me. However, what's interesting is that the way you initialize this is by actually putting 8 fingers onto your screen, and based on the positions in which you place your fingers, it will render each half of the keyboard around your fingers. Very interesting idea. If you want to see more of this, as well as a video showing this in action, do head down to the video description. We have a link to Gizmodo. Our final item for the day is a mobile phone concept. In fact, I guess it's got pretty viral, so you might already have seen this. What we have is a video link to a concept called Phonebloks. The idea is this: instead of having a phone that goes out of date or spoils and you have to get a new one, the concept presented here is to actually have a modular phone. So there is a breadboard, there is a screen attached to the front and various components attached to the back. And depending on what you actually like to see in your phone, you can customize these blocks by removing or replacing different bits. Now, this is a very interesting concept. It will certainly make phones more customizable, which of course people like me would really love. It will also reduce the environmental impact of actually throwing out old phones, which is also nice. Of course, the downside of this is that logistically this might not be very feasible. In particular, from an electronics point of view, this would probably be quite a nightmare to set up. However, this is just a graphical prototype. Hopefully the concept of modularity still stays, and we could see this put into practice in one way or another. So once again, YouTube link in the video description. In fact, I'll pop an annotation around here somewhere as well to check it out, and hopefully, it gets you thinking. Anyway, that's all there is for this episode of Highlight Sundays. If you have any comments, queries or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. Don't forget to follow the official Twitter account for this channel at twitter.com/0612tv. As always, I appreciate every like, favorite and subscription you give me. But until next time, you're watching 0612TV.